Today in your questions answered, I've got a question here from @jcore. What's it like sawing plywood with a handsaw? Is it similar to pine? So what I thought I'd do here is I've got a sample of some, I think this is 6mm, some hardwood plywood, just some scrap. I've got a piece of jarrah and I've got a piece of pine here. So what I thought I'd do is show you sawing the pine, the jarrah, and then we'll go into the plywood, and I'll just talk you through some of the things that I've noticed when doing this. So I thought it'd be a good idea just to show you it first and then jump into what's going on there. I could use a rip cut on the plywood, and in actual fact I might do that today for this video, but normally I'd use a cross cut, but I just want to have no differences, so I think I'll probably just stick with the straight rip cut. This is a 7.5 teeth per inch rip, so not super aggressive but not super fine either. What we've got here is just a piece of pine. This is just some store-bought, what they call premium pine, from our local big box store here, which happens to be a product of New Zealand. So I think this pine is actually found around the world in various places because it's exported a lot, so you might even have some of this in the US and in the UK. I'm not sure, you'd have to let me know, but it might be under a different brand. So I'm just going to go ahead and saw this, and yeah. So my usual sawing technique, which I do with the plywood as well, is I start at this low angle until I'm established and then go into a more upright position like this. So what you just saw there is it snapping out when I got here. I didn't go, I normally change the angle, so I try to avoid that, but I think I put too much pressure on it, it just snapped away. So that's the pine. So let's jump into the hardwood now. Once again, start with that lower angle, push away to start. Now I'm going to move on to the plywood. This is 6mm plywood, at least it looks like it to me. So I don't actually have any plywood that's the same thickness, or roughly the same thickness as these, so you're going to see some differences there with how easy it is because it's thinner. But this is the standard sort of plywood that I'm using. I don't tend to use stuff too much thicker than this unless I'm building an entire cabinet carcass or a toolbox out of it, and then I might go up to about 12mm. So let's just go ahead and saw this, then we'll talk about it. Now, you can probably already see what's starting to talk about. We'll talk about this in a minute. So let's jump back around here and we'll talk about what you've probably just seen right now. We could see that the pine, which is quite soft, saw well, went straight, tracked well, tracked easily. The hardwood, like jarrah, which sometimes is not the most compliant of timbers, that also sawed fairly well, or slower than the pine, which you would expect. It still tracked well, saw didn't jam, Then we move on to the plywood, and I've had this happen no matter the type of plywood that I work with, is the tension held within these plywood sheets, which can happen with some timbers, but for the most part I find it doesn't. And what it does is, as you start sawing through, it jams back behind, it snaps. It's under a lot more tension that it tries to close that gap up that you've sawn, and it jams the saw. And you saw that I had to pull it apart. Now, in other videos you've seen me, and I put an old chisel or something in there just to keep it apart so it doesn't close up behind and jam your saw. And so, for the most part, plywood is a little more tricky to hand saw than both pine and hardwoods, although it is a similar softness to a hardwood, and once you get past the whole allowing it to sort of stay open, it is almost as easy as pine, but with one key difference, and that is that I find with plywood the saw does not track as easy as you would like, and I usually have to keep it in that lower, slower position to actually saw, and constantly adjust it to keep it on the line. Although with plywood, because I find it's harder to track, I usually saw off my line anyway and hand plane back to it. That's another video if you want it, down below. What's the difference between hand planing timbers and plywood? And I can do a video on that if that's something that you're interested in. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below. While you're down there, do sound off in the comments. Do you have a similar issue when it comes to hand sawing plywood? Have you hand sawed plywood, or maybe you have a completely different experience to me? Do leave it down below, because I'm very interested to see if it's maybe something I'm doing wrong. And if you'd like to see another video such as this, Your Questions Answered, do check out the playlist up here, which contains every Your Questions Answered that I've filmed to date. Bye for now.